Emil Harris. You have time ceded from Tom Stanley, so you'll have 6 minutes.
I also have a time ceded from Helen Yunker.
I don't see that. Oh, is it over here? Okay. Well, then I guess you get 9 minutes.
Looks like you guys won't get overtime tonight, huh?
I guess not.
You're going to get out before midnight. That's wonderful for all of us. I'm coming here tonight just to recap and clarify my concerns about policies that will eliminate millions of dollars of existing affordable housing if you do not modify and extend the Granny Flat program. And though you moved to extend it through 2014, as you know, in just 4 months, it was effectively amended so that the rest of the community doesn't have a chance in hell of getting through it. So when you ran, you were amenable to modifying the Granny Flat ordinance so that low-income people could participate. And that never happened, and I understand because you had a lot of really urgent things going on here in the city, and just the ball was kind of dropped and you never got around to it. But at that time, I did warn you that people would lose their Granny Flats if you didn't modify it. And sure enough, my worst fears came true. And that we have lost now 20 so far, and there will be hundreds and hundreds more, maybe thousands. I mean, how far are we going to go before we modify this thing? It's just unbelievable that you guys aren't doing it. They're already here. So as I promised last week to email you the evidence for what I was saying, I did. I sent you the public information request from the attorney's communications and appointments. That was 80 pages. And I'm sure you read every page, but I do read every page of these things. And you'll notice on page 70 that the chief building officer was still in discussions on May 2nd and saying, how do we use more common terms for high efficacy lighting like fluorescent lights? I can derate wall heaters to this or that. So they're having discussions on May 2nd. Now, if you look at the pages that were added to the application, it says May 1st. So when did it really happen? Then the other document that I promised you was the direction from the HCD, and I sent this to you also, and that is a 7-page email string. And when you look at this email string, this is the direction from HCD on enforcement of state codes. In the 7 pages, there is not one reference to the energy codes. They never directed them to do that. But what is in here that's interesting, and I'm sure you found it interesting too, however, HFC sections 17922, 17958 are very clear that alterations and repairs to existing buildings shall permit the replacement, retention, and extension of original materials. Then, after all of this governmental stuff, which I'm sure probably only Councilman Morehouse understands, it says, in summary, it appears that the local enforcing agency has a range of flexibility to enforce the codes, modify them, or accept alternate methods. That was the final statement. This is signed by Sean Huff, State Housing Programs Manager, Division of Codes and Standards, Department of Housing and Community Development. So there you have it. In the other document, which was communication, there was no communication with management in those 80 pages. It was just with the employees of the chief building officer. Now, there would be no reason for that not to be in here had the management been telling him what to do. There's no lawsuit, there's no reason for a lack of transparency, there's no reason for the public not to know. So I have to assume this was it. So it was not, and I don't think any of you knew. So why was this done? It just doesn't make any sense. It wasn't directed by the state. So what I'm asking you to do, again, which I've been asking you now for a couple of years, is to modify this and extend it. You know, I felt badly last week that I felt like you personalized some of the things I was saying, and it wasn't about you. Of course you have equal rights to avail yourself of whatever ordinances are passed in the city, of course. What it was about was those same rights should be extended to the rest of the community, and they were removed. That was my whole point. Now that I made a mistake last week, you recall, I didn't have my glasses. I had to go running for Helen's. Hers are a little different from mine. When I went over this data of the two lists to find that 20 had dropped off the list, there were some that were yellow tagged. And so to be specific, 22 that have not applied are safe, and they're not posted. So those 22, when they are gutted at the end of the year, if you don't modify this, that's safe, affordable housing that we can say goodbye to. And I'm sure the TV cameras are warming up to see people evicted. 16 of the 20 that disappeared were safe. Now, the reason these were posted is because somebody had turned them in. And so once you get turned in and they come and inspect, they'll find safety issues. The reason that the ones that went into the program weren't posted is because they hadn't been turned in. They'd been under the radar for years, in some instances decades. So they hadn't been turned in and inspected. As you go through these, and I've gone through every single one of them, you'll find many safety issues were there, but not now. That's the point. Do we want safe housing? Get these granny flats into a program. Let's get them safe. That's the whole point. It's safe, affordable housing, doesn't need any new water. They're paying property taxes. It's for low-income housing. One woman that I called went into the program after May 1st. She didn't know that she was going to be subjected to these energy codes because, you know, it wasn't put on the website for 71 days, and so she was blindsided. She said if that was too expensive, she was going to turn her granny flat back into a garage. So if you make this too expensive and too difficult, people won't apply, and we'll lose that housing. So let's be practical, let's be compassionate. We are all God's children. We are all created equal. And this has been wonderful for the privileged, but that's not for whom it was intended. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
There are no questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.